good morning. It's Wednesday, and that means WTF CNN. And let me tell you something. I'm actually tired of doing the WTF CNN spots. I kind of don't want to talk about CNN anymore. And I suspect, and I'm very rarely wrong, I suspect that I'm generally preaching to the converted. But here's the thing about the echo chambers and preaching to the converted. Echo chambers are bad. Echo chambers are very bad. Funny story, though, the echo chamber is a left-wing thing. Now, don't get me wrong. There is such a thing as a right-wing echo chamber. If you're on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and if you're watching this show, chances are that you're of an age where you're technologically savvy, that you are, in fact, doing some of that social media. If you're, like, I do not carefully curate my social media. There are plenty of people that are still in my social media who I've known for years, who are friends and even some family, who have gone just completely off the rails, radical, anti-American, left-wing, pro-violence, just madness, right? They've got the Trump derangement syndrome bad. And I'm not talking about any person in particular this morning. There was a hiccup of an incident recently, personally, regarding this, but this is completely separate to all that. But the fact, what I'm really getting into, Tim Pool's done several good videos on this, as have some of the Daily Wire guys, Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles and them. There have been several very interesting surveys and studies recently where it turns out that people on the left tend to only consume left-wing news sources, and people on the right tend to consume a broad array of multiple news sources. So people on the right are getting some CNN, but they're watching Fox News, and they're watching commentators like Glenn Beck and moderates like super moderates like Glenn Beck, milquetoast fence sitters like Glenn Beck and Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles, the super moderate, middle of the road kind of liberal conservatives, and at the same time, the radical left, the established cartel media that's bought and paid for by the Democrat National Committee, is trying to label those guys as being far right. They have literally said that Ben Shapiro is a member of the perpetrators of the Holocaust. Ben Yamaka Shapiro is apparently a very tall, blue-eyed, blonde-haired sausage eater. Okay, if I'm being too coy with that, he's an Orthodox Jew. And I'm not saying that being an Orthodox Jew is a point against him. I'm saying it's a point against the argument that he was involved in that sort of activity. I mean, come on, guys. So that's one of the big problems with, the big problem with the whole echo chamber thing is that it is the left that is locked in the echo chamber. If you're on the right and you go out of your way to only voluntarily consume the furthest probable right-wing media, and you do so without going out of your way to avoid films made by Hollywood, then you are at least exposed to the ideas and the arguments of your opposition. Right? And furthermore, even if you are the furthest radical right, which is to say an actual anarchist, and you go out of your way to consume legitimately radical far right-wing media, which I'm here to tell you is difficult to find, because I spend a lot of time looking for both sides of things. And if you spend a lot of time looking for both sides of things, you'll find that the two-sided concepts that are broadly discussed by the radical left-wing propaganda outlets like CNN, they're not two-sided. They're at the barest minimum dodecahedral. One of the simplest things to understand is that shit is complicated. That's not hard. Understanding the complexity of things, that's different. But just understanding, you need to get this through your head. Two sides do not a die roll make. Politics, life and death, not a coin toss. There's something short of death that's not great and isn't really life. And quadruple amputee. Not the option I'd choose. Deep, abiding depression. Not the one you want, brother. There are things short of death that ain't living. So your multivalent problems, they are at minimum dodecahedral. And those many sides are a thing that are worth contemplating. And even if you are the far right guy and you don't watch Hollywood movies, you don't watch Netflix, you don't watch Disney, all you do, you go out of your way to only read what is it, the Daily Stormer, I think is the National Socialist paper, or blog or whatever. But even if you go out of your way to only consume that voluntarily, you can't go get your teeth cleaned or catch a flight or go to the VA or go to a sports bar, a restaurant. Good luck without having CNN dumped in your face. Okay? You are at least going to be involuntarily subjected to the opposing opinion. If you're in the left-wing echo chamber, though, all of the involuntary content that's crammed into your face against your will is the stuff that agrees with you. It is the state propaganda that the enemy prefers you consume. It is the 2 minutes hate. It is Big Brother's choice. And I know that probably sounds crazy, but I dare you to test the theory. So, WTF CNN, let's take a peek at this. Trump intensifies assault on rule of law as he fights for re-election. Okay, Stephen Collins, I'll bite. What? Obviously, I've already read the article. I already know what this shitburger's going to say. In fact, those are two very separate statements. I would already know what this shitburger was going to say based on my knowledge of what's going on and this headline coming from this source written by this person. If I hadn't already read the article. Trump on Tuesday went further than ever before in putting the degradation of the rule of law at the center of his re-election campaign. Let me stop you there before we move forward. This sentence is meant by this writer, and I'm editorializing because, and I am going to editorialize on this quite a bit because, as you will see as we move forward, this article is no facts. It's nothing but editorializing. And it's the worst kind of editorializing propaganda. And based on that, the entire article is blatantly false. I mean, it's editorializing. He's making statements of opinion. He's stating these statements of opinion as if they are factual statements of opinion, doesn't bring receipts, offers no evidence to support his claims. Right? All of the things that I just said are fact. Now, let me editorialize. President Donald Trump on Tuesday went further than ever before in putting the degradation of the rule of law at the center of his re-election campaign. The intent of this writer using this sentence in this context, coupled with all of his editorializing that comes later and is all very, very anti-Trump, Trump derangement negative syndrome. His point here is that putting the degradation of law at the center of his re-election campaign is a bad thing. What he's really trying to do is he's trying to make the accusation that Trump is running on actively degrading the rule of law. So we're probably going to see that he's going to make claims in here that Trump used. Well, he may not get to it in here, but to back this are the claims that Trump used secret police to arrest peaceful protesters, just snatch them off the street, unidentified. That's false. That's easily debunked, handily debunked. Not only were there only a few incidents where rioters were arrested by those federal officers, but the federal officers were clearly identified. They were in badged uniforms. It is literally the case that the headlines that said unidentified officers, which were run by CNN and their ilk, were run above pictures of the officer with his badge clearly visible in the picture. It's madness. So part of what everybody needs to understand, and this is something that you just need to tell your friends and family, you need to say this to people. It is not that the Democrat Party thinks that Americans are stupid. It is that they know that enough Americans are stupid that they can be swayed to bolster the ranks of those that are crooked. Because at the heart of every Democrat policy position is the moral certainty that it is morally preferable to take by force than to earn. Not that it is okay to point a gun at somebody and steal their money from them and give it to somebody who hasn't earned it after a person has earned money. Not that that's morally tolerable. No. Their proposition, their position, their moral center is that pointing a gun at somebody, stealing their money, and then giving it to someone who doesn't deserve it is morally better than, is morally preferable to, morally, dare I say, superior to actually earning that capital to begin with. So this first sentence is intended to be an allegation. Trump called on his supporters in North Carolina to act as poll watchers, to watch out for thieving, stealing, and robbing, which he puts in scare quotes, that he is warning without evidence will taint the election day. Okay. It is not possible to offer evidence to prove a prediction because the occurrence has not yet occurred. That specific occurrence has not yet occurred. That's the election day. In this is a nomonym. He just says election day. He means the general election on November 3rd. That's a nomonym. It's like saying the Hill or the White House when you mean the government or the administration. It's like saying daddy when you mean Christopher Lowry. And dear God, I had better not hear that reference out of anyone that is not 10 years and younger and last named Lowry. Okay, so we're good, right? Okay, so the nominum here, the election day. What you can, however, offer is evidence of a pattern establishing a reasonable expectation, which is the basis on which predictions are made. If you cannot use an evidentiary sequence to establish a pattern for the purposes of making a prediction, then how can you possibly make a decision on actions that you will take which might or will affect future outcomes? There's plenty of evidence. And funny story. Oh, you know what? Real quick, I didn't even think about this. Let me check the date on this article. When was this? 6:02 this morning, Wednesday, September 9th. Aha. Did you miss that there was just an investigation opened in Georgia yesterday? Funny story. I did a whole hour yesterday on election fraud, the evidence that it has occurred in the past, the high probability that it occurs in nearly all elections to some degree. And yesterday, all of a sudden, we're investigating 1,000 voters who apparently got mail-in ballot, or got, my mistake, absentee ballots, and then attempted to go to the polls to vote. Okay. Thing about that. Apparently there were a crap load more. I don't remember what the exact figure was. In fairness, it might be a little overplayed. It sounds to me like for the majority of the larger number, whatever it was, I'm pulling this one off the top of my head because I've been dealing with this article this morning. But it seems to me like the claim that's being made is not that a bunch of people who voted by absentee ballot then went and attempted to vote in person, but rather a bunch of people who requested absentee ballots then went to vote in person. So it's possible, in fact I would say probable, that at least some number of those people requested an absentee ballot with the expectation that they would be out of the city or out of the state during the election and they would need to vote absentee, and then whatever changed, right? And it could be as simple as they requested the absentee ballot because the COVID scared them, and then they got a little braver and decided, you know what? Screw that. I don't trust the mail. I'm going to go vote in person. That could be it. So if they requested a ballot, did not send the absentee ballot in to vote, and then went to vote, that's a hell of a lot different than they sent in the ballot and then went and voted. And I think we're going to find that a lot of the cases are that, but it is painfully illustrative of one simple fact. The mail-in ballot is not a secure option. And when I say not a secure option, make no mistake, the word secure is a completely superfluous adjective in that sentence. What I mean is, it's not an option. The mail-in vote. I mean, how hard is this? The Democrats who have taken the endorsement of the post office, who would be handling the mail-in vote, have been opposing all manner of voter security forever. The Democrat has always been against all manner of voter security. And I'm not talking about racist bullshit poll taxes, any of that. How about voter ID law? It is not just that Democrats are refusing to have voter ID laws in their own states. One of the several factors that held up the first stimulus package, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't a fan of the stimulus package. I took the money because they didn't give me a way to not take it. It it was there. I didn't know what to do with it. And no matter what I did with it, they're going to take it back from me next year anyway. So, but one of the things that held that up as long as it did, and is holding up the attempt to do it again, is that Nancy and her Democrats are demanding not just some mechanism to prevent voter ID laws from entering their blue haven states, their sanctuary cities. They're not just trying to make sure that their polls are so insecure that criminal foreign invaders are allowed to vote in the general election. That's not sufficient to the enemy that is actively funding John Ossoff's campaign by mechanism of their own foreign interference. No. They're demanding that voter ID laws in the states that have them be repealed. They're demanding that the Congress make a law that outlaws voter ID laws. So maybe, I don't know if Nancy just never read the Constitution or if she drank it away, but the conduct of the elections is a state's matter. That how the election in each state is handled is explicitly, in the Constitution, explicitly the province of each of those states. Right? The Constitution says that the states will elect the president, and the states will determine how they do that. If a state wanted to say, hey, our government decides who we vote for, our governor, once we've elected our governor, he is our voter for the general election. We can do that. I'm not saying that's a good idea. In fact, I think that's a very bad idea, and that's why I'm using the example, because it's a bad idea, just like having unsecure elections and sanctuary cities in the same state. It's okay, there's an argument to be made that having the unsecure elections and the sanctuary cities in the same state is not keeping within the spirit of the law, because the vote is the province of the citizen, and that's a federal matter, not a state matter. But yeah, it's important that that's a federal matter and not a state matter, because the federal government is, while the federal government is beholden to all the states and required to be cooperative amidst all the states, if any given state were to act in sovereign to grant state citizenship with the presumptive grant of federal citizenship, then that would mean that individual states could decide who was made citizen and therewith who was permitted free travel between the other states who had no say in the grant of that citizenship. So yeah, just having Brian Kemp go vote for Donald Trump on behalf of every Georgian is actually a better idea, or at least a more lawfully compliant one, than California having sanctuary cities with or without an unsecure election, which they're pushing for. And now we've made it through most of the first paragraph. I hope y'all are drinking coffee. So, he made his call at a packed rally in Winston-Salem, where he and many of his fans made a mockery of the state's mask mandate. You know, the mask mandates, asking politely that everyone wear a mask wasn't a problem. In fact, that was going pretty well. And since the inception of the mandates, mask wearing has not increased dramatically in most places. But here's what we do know from the mandates, is that your little tin-pot mayors and governors and your Democrat presidential candidate assume that they have a hell of a lot more authority than we have ever ceded to them from the 10th Amendment to the remainder of the Constitution. No. Understand, Obamacare went to the Supreme Court and barely survived it based on the premise that it was the government giving an affirmative, active order to the individual city, or to the individual citizen, without a precondition. Like, you have to have car insurance, right? No, because you don't have to own a car. You have to have homeowners insurance? No, you could rent. You could be homeless. If you're homeless, the government can't require you to have homeowners insurance. In fact, if you own a home, you're not required to have homeowners insurance. It's just, a generally good idea. But, yeah, you can own a car without having car insurance. As long as you don't drive it on public roads. But the point is that for those affirmative requirements, there are preconditions. The precondition to Obamacare was you're alive. If you're alive, you have to give somebody money for that privilege. And if you don't pay somebody money for that privilege, then you'll begin a chain of enforcement activities that will eventually end in your death. And yes, that's death by a gun held by an agent of the state. There is no law which does not end in your death by a gun in the hands of an agent of the state. That's what law is. It's legal authorization for the use of a weapon. No, that's not a legitimate acronym. The word law is a word. That was a retcon off the top of my head. It's okay. You didn't just learn something new. You heard something interesting. That's also an important distinction. So, the mask mandate's a joke. As well as the advice of his own government amid a pandemic that has killed nearly 190,000 Americans and was exacerbated by his prioritizing politics over science. That is not a mistake. The writer is not incorrect here. He has not committed an error. He has told a lie. Okay. For the claim to be true that Donald Trump has badly handled the pandemic, it would be necessary for an active counterfactual to be presented, which established and corroborated evidence that the factual claim was false. Okay. Do you understand the difference between facts and fact claims? A fact is a piece of information which is true in reality and supportable by evidence. A factual claim is the claim that something meets the definition of a fact. Right? So what you have here is not a fact. What you have here is a fact claim. And that's an important distinction because it's actually his opinion, but he's phrasing it as a fact claim, operating under the assumption, like I mentioned earlier about how they think you're stupid. He's stating his opinion as if it is a fact, and not as if it is a fact claim. He is making the fact claim to mask that this is his editorializing opinion, in the assumption that you will not do research or question the fact claim made, and will just accept that it's a fact. So he's playing a muddy puzzle with the conceptual structure of fact presentation to imply that he is speaking words which are true, rather than opining upon claims which are unsupported. There's a few reasons he does this, most principally of which he's dishonest and lazy. If this guy were a legitimate journalist, he would be citing data. He would make specific fact claims and bring receipts to support those claims, right? So, if I make a fact claim, if I say the sky is blue, that's a fact claim. I am asserting that I believe, based on my observation, that the sky is blue. And for the purposes of this illustration, let's just assume that I'm telling the truth, right? And the truth in that claim is not that the sky is blue. I am asserting that I believe the sky to be blue. Let's assume that is truly what I believe, whether or not the sky is blue. If I believe the sky is blue based on observational evidence, i.e., I walked outside and I looked at the sky and it turned out to be blue, now I have a fact claim, the fact being a claim of what I believe. Whether the thing that I believe is true or not is not relevant to whether or not I truly believe it to be the case. I know that's a lot of mud to walk through, but what you have going on here in this sentence, as well as the advice of his own government amid a pandemic that has killed nearly 190,000 Americans. Okay, these are technically true claims. And here we go. And was exacerbated by his prioritizing politics over science. To be very clear, the assertion I'm making, and this is the difference between a mistake and a lie, this person does not believe that the problem was exacerbated by Trump's prioritizing politics over science. It's possible, now that this is me editorializing, it is my belief that this person does not legitimately believe the sentence that he has printed here, based on the rest of this article, and based on the rest of his track record. The guys, I went through and looked at several of his articles, and the guy's just, it's just what he does. He just writes, "I hate Trump." Trump intensifies assault. Okay, that's the one we're reading. Trump train looks close to full derailment. Oh, here's something for Nancy. Trump won't stop interfering in the election. Oh, really? See, and that's a lie. Trump spinning virus failure as a win. See, the guy's just, he's not a journalist. He's a TV guide to Donald Trump. This guy wouldn't have a career if he didn't have a Donald Trump to lie about. This claim that, okay, so let's get to the counterfactual here. So in America, and was exacerbated by his prioritizing politics over science. For that to be a fact claim to be proved true by the bringing of the receipts, one would have to show a counterfactual which asserted that there was an alternative to the way that the pandemic was handled, which was a more successful route. Such a counterfactual does not exist. The best you can do is you can point to China and say, well, China got the pandemic under control much faster by executing sick people and welding people into their apartments, because that is what they did, right? And that was massively effective. If you kill off all the sick people and burn their bodies, and then everywhere that somebody's sick and alive, you go and weld them into the apartment and just wait for them to die and come back and open it up and dispose of the bodies, that's yeah, that'll get the job done. And then there's the purely American counterfactual. When Donald Trump shut down travel from China, every single Democrat not only said they would not have done that because it was racist and xenophobic, and continued to assert that for at least a month afterwards. Some of them went as far as 2 months later. And let's not forget, Dr. Fauci, as late as the end of April, was saying that this virus is not a big deal, you should not be wearing a mask, and you should not be afraid to go out in public. But I thought Fauci was the good guy, right? Wasn't he the smart guy that knew all the good stuff? Right? And even there, amid the, as well as the advice of his own government amid a pandemic, Trump shut down the travel early and started suggesting that you be careful, wash your hands. Trump's a germaphobe. Right? The man's not a big handshaker, but he is a big hand washer. He's always, that's him. He's a germaphobe. One of the reasons the reason apparently that he eats fast food so often is because the fast food restaurants have a very specific required regiment of sanitation that you don't get in a mom and pop shop. Okay. Honestly, that's a little irrational. No, it's not. It's very rational. It's more risk averse than I would prefer him to be. But the man is in his 70s, relatively good health, and the billionaire playboy philanthropist president of the United States. So maybe he figured a thing or two out. But even this assertion that against the advice of his own government, Fauci said this isn't a big deal. Fauci said no masks. Fauci said don't be afraid to go out in public as late as mid to late April. Okay? So this guy, he's not wrong. He's lying. Most shockingly, and in one of the most stunning maneuvers in the modern history of the Department of Justice, government lawyers Tuesday applied to take over the defense of Trump in a defamation lawsuit filed against him by a woman who accused him of the rape in the 1990s. Trump has been accused of sexual assault or rape by several women. And I'm excluding this woman from the next piece of analysis and statement. Her case is a little different. It's bizarre and highly suspicious. And I mean it's bizarre and highly suspicious. I'm very confident that Donald Trump never even sexually propositioned this woman, let alone the bizarre rape story she tells. Almost all of the accusations against Donald Trump have been very similar. They're all things like, well, he looked at me. Okay, look, sweetheart. Let me be real blunt. I am a married man. I love my wife. I am faithful and monogamous. I've been married for over a decade to the same woman. Been faithful and monogamous. I have 4 beautiful children, and I love them, and I would never do anything to hurt their mother. But I don't change the channel if there's boobies on the TV either. Okay? And even in a professional setting, I will compliment a woman's ensemble. I'll tell a lady she looks nice. Right? And, hey, so, in all fairness, I'm a big, healthy, good-looking dude. And the fact of the matter is, good-looking dudes, rich dudes, very rarely get accused of rape, because often the defining factor, the thing that changes whether or not it was rape, is whether or not the woman regrets what she did. I am extraordinarily dubious of rape claims generally. If you come to me with a rape claim that does not include some sort of injury, I have to be suspicious. And the reason is because it has become popular to use a false rape claim to safeguard a lady's reputation, or to harm a man who she perceives to have slighted her. We had one chick at, I'll say a school that I attended, without being over specific there. We had this one chick, she claimed rape 9 separate times, 9 separate men. 8 of them were ruined. They had their security clearances revoked, were removed from the U.S. Army, and a few of them served time before they were removed. And several of them, their removal was a dishonorable discharge. That's a felony. I mean, it's functionally the same as having been convicted of a felony. You can't carry a weapon, you can't vote, yada, yada, yada. On number 9, there just happened to be a new commander who looked at that and said, there's only one common denominator in this sticky situation, in this equation of love. And that one common denominator was an alcoholic chick addicted to pain medication that went to a hotel party and let herself get passed around like a lubricated sock 2 or 3 times a month. And then she'd wake up the next morning, regret what she'd done, and point a finger and ruin someone. You look at the Blasey Ford case, you look at the whole Me Too movement. Oh, these actresses are so brave, they're coming out against Harvey Weinstein. Okay. Weinstein was a monster. But he was a monster that didn't have legitimate victims. The actresses that accused Weinstein, they traded their bodies for money. They're not victims. They're whores. Now, okay, I went a little further down that tangent than I intended to. A lot of the claimants against Donald Trump have been like, there was the porn star, not Stormy Daniels, because Stormy Daniels didn't allege that he assaulted or raped her. She just said that they had an affair. And then, well, and then she retracted it. They didn't report that crap. So, yeah, what happened with Stormy is she extorted Donald Trump for hush money. Donald Trump continued it perpetually to deny that he had a relationship with her. So, and then when she came out and started running her mouth in the press, he threatened to sue her to take back the hush money. And then she recanted. What that sounds to me like is she lied to begin with. I don't mean she lied when she came out to the press. I mean she lied when she went to Trump for the hush money. She just said, hey, I look like your type. People believe it. Give me $500,000 or I'll go out and lie about you. Not hard. Because they never brought any evidence that the two of them spent any time together, just her stories. And then she recanted the story. She eventually came out and said, no, I lied about the whole thing. They just, didn't put that on the same page, at the same level of headline as Stormy Daniels accuses Trump of having an affair. And honestly, until her retraction, I was totally on board. I said, you know what? I think he did it. I think he had sex with that woman. I don't care if he had sex with that woman. It's none of my business. I'd prefer he was a monogamous, faithful husband like me. But, I mean, at the end of the day, if you want me to vote against Donald Trump, you got to bring me a candidate that's not that's not pro-infanticide, pro-dissolution of U.S. borders, and pro-obliteration of the U.S. Constitution. You show me a candidate that doesn't kill babies, end the country, and completely overturn the Constitution, and then we can begin to have a conversation. Maybe. Because I mean, you get rid of those three things and we still have to wonder about your Green New Deal and your universal basic income, your progressive tax system, and I'm trying not to do the F-bombs. Communism. Oh, I could probably keep doing this for a long time. This article goes on. I've been at this for 45 minutes this morning, and that's more time than this dick burger deserves. Oh, okay. No, I do want to dig into the Jean Carroll thing a little bit. And before I do, let me finish the point about Trump accusers. Many of Trump's actual accusers, there was the one porn star that said, she said she met him at a fundraiser, took her for a walk. He took her for a walk on the beach, and then invited her back to his room. She was asked if he put his hands on her inappropriately, and she said no. She was asked if he manhandled her or was rude or cruel or anything like that, and she said no. So the whole story is, met him at a fundraiser, we left the fundraiser, went for a walk on the beach, he asked me back to his penthouse, and I said no. So to be clear, when they tell you that Trump has been accused by 12 or 30 or a billion women, that's one of them. That's one of the stories they're talking about, is he asked me to come back to his room, and I said no. Not he was pushy, not he was cruel, not he grabbed me by the boobie. He politely asked, and I rejected him. Another one, the more severe one, another porn star. The man's got a type. Okay. Not my flavor. Do what you do. But another porn star, and the story she tells is she met him at a fundraiser type event, and she did go to his room with him, and she brought a friend. At his request, he ordered a huge, expensive room service spread. They ate dinner. And when the two porn stars got up to leave, he tried to kiss one of them goodnight. That's her story. Not he tried to grab me, he tried to stop us from leaving, he tried to convince us to go in the bedroom. Her story is, he took me and my girlfriend up to his room, bought us an expensive dinner, and then he leaned in for a goodnight kiss when we were leaving. Those are the stories that they're calling accusations of rape and sexual harassment against the president. So, just take all that and understand they're liars. Now, this woman, Jean Carroll, she tells this story that Donald Trump found her in Bergdorf's, rented out, just basically stroked a check and told him, I want you to shut down the store. Nobody comes in the mall today. Shut it down. That was a little more De Niro the Grouch than Donald the Trump, but anyway. So the story she tells is that Donald Trump followed her in Bergdorf's, shut down the store, made everybody leave. They're in the store, it's empty, and then she finds out that he shut it down, that he rented it out for the day or whatever. And then they playfully try on outfits. She playfully tries on outfits for him, and then he goes into the he forces his way on her into the dressing room, and then that's where he raped her. So when she tells this story, she very explicitly says that she finds rape fantasies very sexy and arousing. She This is a woman who fantasizes about being raped. That's not an assumption that I'm making based on observations of speech patterns or some wild, outlandish intelligence analytics shit. That is a statement that she has made to the press on more than one occasion. And here's the best bit. The story that she tells of her rape in Bergdorf's, even to all the details, including that it happened in Bergdorf's, is a story that the chick told on Seinfeld. Verbatim. It is the exact same story, detail for detail, only she has placed herself in the position of the fictional character. It's a pure rape fantasy. Right? And I am not saying 100% that I know her to be lying, and that I know with pure metaphysical certitude that this thing did not occur. There's even a bizarro world in which she told her story to the Seinfeld writers, and that's how it made it into the show. But the possibility of that does not fall on the probable side of Occam's razor or Hamlin's razor. I am, like I said, not pure metaphysical certitude, but damn near it. I sway maybe an angstrom to the left of that question. I think this woman is a liar. And I think that Trump is 100% right to file a defamation suit against her. So, yeah, I think that's about all I can stand of this Stephen Collins. I might do a douchebag dossier on him. We'll see. Make a note of that. Collins' son. So, Trump's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize again. Oh, dude. Beautiful. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to hit all those buttons down there. Like, share, subscribe. Share. Because YouTube doesn't promote this kind of content. You know that. But you do. Yes, you do. And I would appreciate you if you would. So please, share the show on Facebook. Talk us up. Leave me a comment. I'm especially interested to hear if you think I'm an asshole. I'd love to respond to that claim. Make a specific claim. Don't just say you're an asshole. I'm like, yeah, that's fair. You know, tell me I'm wrong about something. Hell, accuse me of lying. That'll piss me off. But leave a comment. See what you got. And I will see you tomorrow. So, yeah, it's this button. Yeah. Be safe out there.